Saturday morning, the Experts program kicks off here on Power Talk, and Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, joining us right now. Welcome back, Luis.
Thank you, Mark. How are you today?
Doing really well. Good weekend. Now we're going to have some rain tomorrow, which I understand may get in the way of your boat races.
Yeah, we're supposed to be sailing in the afternoon, and usually our races start around noon and last till 4:30, and it looks like the rain is coming in toward the end of that. So if the forecast holds, we probably won't be racing. At least the winds aren't going to be as bad as predicted earlier in the week. It was supposed to be like 20 knots with a gust of up to 48. So kind of blustery out there.
Right. Hey, we've got an interesting story today. We've been wondering about the possibility of cyber attacks because of the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, and that the Russian government may strike back at the sanctions that have been put on them by the rest of the world by unleashing various types of cyber attacks. And you were telling me off the air that just this week there was a new warning that came out regarding those possibility of those cyber attacks. What do you know?
Yeah, there was an emergency meeting on Tuesday, the 22nd, that I attended. It was a White House managed informative cybersecurity session that basically said, hey, we always are warning you about stuff going on. We can't tell you what we know, but we now have actionable intel that there are efforts underway by Russia to target the critical infrastructure of the United States, and in particular, small businesses. And Russia is obviously stymied in the Ukraine, and now what they're hoping to do is to fight back against the sanction and their battlefield stalemate or losses, in some people's opinion, they're going to launch cyber attacks. And these cyber attacks are going to be designed to be as disruptive as possible. So the White House and the chief intelligence officer in the federal government wants us all businesses, to really up their game. If you haven't been doing anything with cybersecurity other than just the basics, now is the time to really engage with your internal team or bring in outside experts to help make sure that you're doing everything possible to protect yourself. Because the big fear is a large enough attack will, strain resources. When we have a client or somebody calls us that's been hit by ransomware, it's a pretty time-consuming process to get them up and running. If all of a sudden you had 100 or 200 businesses in an area get hit, it's going to be prioritized, and some businesses may not get back up and running for weeks, if not longer.
Right. So what are some of the types of cyber attacks that we might see? Have you got any idea of what the Russians might release on the world, particularly the U.S.?
Well, there's two main ones that they're talking about. One is advanced spear phishing. As we know, phishing is when somebody receives an email that they're prompted to click a link or do something that would spread malware on that system. And then from that system in a business, it leaps into other nearby PCs and servers. Spear phishing is a very targeted way of doing that. That is, they study a victim or somebody that they want to victimize and make it really difficult for the recipient of the email to really discern that it's a phishing email. And so their concern is that they've been building a database of these targets, and now they're going to launch very sophisticated phishing attacks on these targets. And then the other one that they're concerned about is something called a denial of service attack. That is, hey, let's just shut down the internet by attacking the hubs that the internet service providers use to basically freeze commerce online. And, those of us, we all know that without access to the internet, most of us can't do a lot of the work that we do, especially if you're using hosted services, if you're using Google App Suite or you're using Microsoft 365 and you can't get to your email or you can't get to your documents that are stored in the cloud, then what do you do? So that's going to cause a lot of panic and a lot of losses. And then there's some question as to that does happen, will insurance companies cover it because it's an act of war? And, that's something that they exclude in most insurance policies. So that's the kind of panic they want to instill in the U.S. And the best way to make sure that it doesn't happen to you is make sure you're doing things like backing up your files. Make sure that you're using multi-factor authentication for all hosted services and even for VPN access into your office, because credentials have been compromised. And just because they haven't been used doesn't mean that there isn't a database of those credentials available. And if all you use is a user ID and password, then you are probably going to be victimized with a sophisticated attack. Make sure all your software, the operating system as well as the applications, are updated and patched to the latest version, and that there are no known vulnerabilities that you're exposing yourself. And make sure all of your security products are up to date and that you're using the best products that you can. And don't just rely on one thing. Don't tell yourself, hey, I have a firewall, I don't need antivirus, or I have antivirus, I don't need a firewall. You really need multiple layers of protection. And you also need education. You need to let your employees know that this is a real thing that's happening out there. Let your family know that this is a real thing that's happening out there, and to get smart and be suspicious and be cautious about getting emails from purported friends or people that you know that look just a little off. If it feels a little off, then don't open it. Delete it and just pick up the phone and call that person and say, hey, did you send me something? And if they did, they can resend it to you.
Right. And by the way, the price for being lax on cybersecurity can be very steep. As an example, a few years ago, a 5-person business was attacked. Now that's, when you talk about small businesses and very small businesses, 5-person is a pretty small business.
Yep.
They got hit with a ransom of $50,000. And that was probably not an easy amount of money for that 5-person business to come up with.
Yeah. And a lot of people think that if you have cyber insurance, they'll pay for that. But remember, insurance pays after the fact.
Right.
So you have to come up with the money in advance to do all the work that's necessary to pay the ransomware, to pay people to restore your systems, and then you file your claim. So if you don't have the money in the bank to do this, then chances are you're just never going to recover.
By the way, I guess there's an outfit called the CISA, the Cyber Readiness Institute, that has a free ransomware guide with step-by-step directions on how to prevent an attack. How do people get that information?
Yeah, so if you go to cisa.gov, you'll see a whole host of information, including some free training that's valuable and pretty good, that you can go through those courses to understand how to spot suspicious emails or suspicious links on websites and protect yourself.
Right. And remember, it's cisa.gov, not cisa.ru.
Yeah, exactly. Good
Because
point.
they will probably come up with that themselves, so just be careful of that. All right. Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, has been our guest today, getting the program started here. AlvarezTG.com is the website. @AlvarezTG is their Twitter handle. Luis, the toll-free number for the I-Team.
You can give us a call at 866-78-I-TEAM. That's 866-784-8326.
And be sure to join us Monday morning, starting in the 8 o'clock hour, for our expert segment with Luis Alvarez. And Luis, what are we talking about on Monday?
We're going to be talking about cryptocurrency and whether the feds are going to get into it or not.
All right. That's coming up Monday here on Power Talk. Thank you, Luis.
Take care, my friend.